Hey everybody, Mega Roller 31 back here for FSi DFS. We have a big slate finally in MLB after a bunch of small ones. 13 gamer for Friday, the 15th of April. And I know a lot of people will be busy preparing for the Easter holiday if you celebrate that, or Passover if you're celebrating that, or just the weekend in general. So even though it's a 13 game slate, and I kind of cringe when there's a lot of choices because I tend to like smaller slates as a DFS player, and almost majority of my takedowns have been on smaller slates. This one's really not that bad, even with Course Field. So I'm not going to go game by game and keep you a long time here. We're just going to go through and break down some pitchers, some stacks, get you a couple lineup starters, and we'll get you on your way. Yesterday was kind of a weird day because it was a smaller 6 game slate. Toronto and New York actually played, and the Toronto pitcher actually was the pitcher to take in the San Diego one. But I thought Morton for Atlanta, because San Diego really hadn't done much, and got crushed in the first inning, gave up 5 runs. And then Ohtani didn't do great either, and I know he was pretty highly owned. And then we had Coors Field on the slate, which I think San Diego looked like they were playing more in Coors than the teams that were playing in Coors. So it's the beginning of the season. It's baseball. Even in the middle of the summer, you'll still have days like that. But the funny thing is that I actually played Vogelbach and a lot of my lineups that I had Morton in, and he scored so many points with his like home run and the good game he had that he actually became my SP1. And Morton, at least they left him in the game long enough to pick up some points. So, he actually became like my first baseman score wise. So I minimum cash, nothing major, but on to today and let's rock this. So pitching on this huge slate, I think it goes down to 3 guys that you're going to look for if you want to pay up for pitching. You're going to look at Rondon. I think he's going to be the top one here. And I know he's up against Cleveland. I know Cleveland had a very, very hot start to the season, but they were up against some very suspect pitching. Rondon has been really good. He kind of tailed off towards the end of last year. I think he just kind of got a high workload. Keep in mind, like that was the first time they played a full season. 2020 was a shortened season. So I think that, Rondon's back. He had a really good first start, and I think he can actually match up well against this Cleveland team. I know that Reyes has really crushed left-handed pitching, and, I've switched here to Ramirez, and there's a lot of righties in this lineup, but I'm pretty confident at 9-8 that Rodon's going to be a SP1. I think Dylan Cease is going to be my second choice there at 10-2. A little bit higher. He has Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay can hit, but they also can strike out. Low strikes out. If Zunino is in the lineup, the righty on righty matchup, they might play Mejia, but there are enough Ks in the lineup, and I think Cisse is enough, and the bullpen is pretty good behind him, that they'll be able to kind of neutralize the Tampa Bay lineup. And I think that's, where I would look for my second choice for SP1. And I think Peralta would be the final choice that I would take. St. Louis, again, they hit well in preseason and have shown some offensive outbursts, but Peralta, I think second start out, I think he's go out there and shut them down. A little bit expensive, probably more of a GPP play here. I think he'll have the lowest ownership out of the 3 of them, but I think he's definitely viable if you're going to pay up for SP1. You have a whole mid-range here, and I really don't like any of them. They all have issues. Screwball is up against Kansas City. There were very few strikeouts on both sides in that game yesterday, and Kansas City has actually not been striking out a ton this season. So I think, at 8-2, he's a good pitcher, and he's got a good prospect, and I think he's got a lot of good years ahead of him. But I don't know if he's worth paying 8-2 for on this slate. Goslin has a great matchup for the Dodgers against Cincinnati, who has a horrible lineup compared to last year with all the players that have left. And, the strikeouts there, they're very low on base percentage, not really hitting the ball hard. But Goslin is like an extended opener almost. Like the dude only goes like 3-4 innings, maybe 5 at the most. It seems like he's got a very, very short leash on him. And not because he's bad. I mean, even if he's doing good, like heck, Kershaw was almost pitching a perfect game in the seventh. They pulled him. So, there is no leaving these starting pitchers in for the Dodgers, no matter how much they're cruising. It's just not the plan. It's not how they play, and it's very frustrating. But I think in the context of the slate, that Gosling potentially could be useful here. I think that he can get enough done in his early innings against a really poor Cincinnati lineup. So I think, if you are looking in the mid-range, he's somebody to consider. You guys are probably going to maybe disagree with me on this one, but I think German Marquez pitching at Coors Field, yes, against the Cubs. But the Cubs really don't have left-handed bats to match up with him that are really, really good. Most of the Cubs bats are righties, and he's really good against right-handed pitching. Plus, the wind's blowing in at about 14 miles per hour. It's only 66 degrees. It's not a hot day. The wind's not blowing out in Coors. I think that Marquez is very viable here, and I think I will have some shares with him. And actually, usually in Coors Field, like the two teams that stop stacks, I think the Cubs are only a GPP stack, saying not even my favorite GPP stack. I think they'll have a lot of ownership, and I think Marquez will be very sneaky, and I think that you could borderline cash play, but I'm definitely going to have him in a GPP lineup. Odorizzi from Houston is another option. Again, there's really not that many. He's up against Seattle. Seattle's got a much better lineup than Seattle. So they did add a decent left-handed bat with Winker in there and Adam Frazier leading off. So again, 7-2, if that's what you need to make the rest of your lineup work, I think it's okay. But I think I'd look at the cheap options and I get to. My favorite cheap option is going to be Keller. He's going to be the first one I look at if I'm looking to save some money here. I know that there wasn't many strikeouts last time when we were looking at the Kansas City and Detroit game yesterday, but I think Detroit has struck it out at times. So I think there's a good chance that he can get in there at 7K. And this is a DK only. He's like, I think he's like 9K on FanDuel. That's way too much to pay for him there. So not interested in him on FanDuel, but on DK at 7K, I think he makes the most sense as your SP2. Plesac would be the second one that I would look at in that case. Where's he? He's up against San Francisco. San Francisco again is a really good matchup team for batting wise because they have so many like lefties they can throw at a pitcher. They can throw so many righties at a starting pitcher. Sorry, for some reason my screen's going blank here, but there's so many different ways that they can attack a pitcher. But I think that with his price, that he's cheap enough here that he can definitely be serviceable for a starting pitcher if we're trying to save. Right, I like also, he is in a matchup where we're looking to both pitchers are young in this matchup, and I don't think that either team's going to go off offensively. And I know Wright he's got some really good electric stuff, and I know he struggled a little bit last season, but I think he can come out against the Padres. I know the Padres went off last night and absolutely crushed Morton, especially in the first inning, and then they crushed the bullpen later on and scored 12 runs. But I think that he's going to be okay at 6-7 here if you're trying to pay down. I'd probably go Keller, but I think Wright's definitely in the equation because there are some heavier stacks like that have heftier salaries that you want to try to get in here. And I think Gore would be the final one on the other side of it. He is a very, very highly touted prospect. He was the number one prospect, I think, in 2017 when he first came. He's really worked his way fastly up and done really well at all the minor league levels. And now he's ready to make his first major league start here. And he's up against a Braves team who has cooled off. They had some offensive explosions. And then the last game of the series in Atlanta, they weren't good. They didn't do very well last night. And they only have like a 3.91 total. And with Gore here, they really don't have a book on him. They don't know like what to kind of expect. And I think maybe like the Braves will put up some runs, but he only really needs to score like 11, 12 points to pay off his 5K salary. So I think if you're trying to get some things in and you want to play one of these up, Rodon, Cisse, or Peralta, I think Gore makes a good SP2 option for you there. I don't think he's going to get completely blown up from what we've seen him do through the other levels. And again, I think he's one that's going to come up there in the first couple of starts, have some success. Once people start seeing some film on him and get a book on his pitching style, then I think at the major league level, then I think you'll see some runs to be scored against him. So looking at stacks, New York goes to Baltimore, and they are against Jordan Lyles. And Jordan Lyles is a really bad pitcher. And I'm looking at the fact that they reconfigured Camden Yards also. So they're supposed to make it harder for right-handed batters to be able to hit home runs. They move the walls and things like that. But I still think that the Yankees actually get to them and absolutely crush them. I like Texas up against Detmers. It's really struggled. Texas has been hot hitting. Colorado, even though he's up against a decent pitcher for the Cubs, I think that they look really good in Coors Field. And then I really like Toronto today. They have been absolutely hot to start the season, so I don't think that cools off at all today. So those would be the top stacks I'm looking at. For GPP, the Dodgers against Cincinnati against a really bad pitcher, late night hammer. I think they're a great GPP stack to start there. I prefer, or the fifth cash stack. I mean, it's a big slate, but I think I like New York, Texas, Colorado, and Toronto a little bit more. Houston up against Marco Gonzalez, who's way overpriced for Seattle. Lefty matchup, some of those righties there, even some of the lefties in the lineup hit lefties well too. The Cubs I would put as GPP just because they're in Coors Field, but I really think Marquez dominates them and does well. Maybe they come to life later on against the Colorado bullpen, but with the wind blowing in, cooler temperatures, I'm not super excited there. The Angels are a good stack too. Again, I always say they're very, very hard to stack, just the natures of their positions and how costly it is just to get Trout and Ohtani in the same lineup. So I think there's some place looking at GPP. And then I think, San Francisco and St. Louis could be decent stacks. They have shown that they can put up ones. They should have shown that they can match up. But I think, you're really getting towards the bottom there of the top 10 teams that I like. If you're looking cheap, Oakland is someone to look at. They've been hitting really well recently. So, you can't argue there, but then again, is this the day they cool off? You don't know, but I think, they definitely, the pricing wise, they make a nice cheap stack. Kansas City also, especially, Wits has been very, very cheap. There are some bats that are a little bit more expensive, but most of them are pretty reasonable to fit in. Milwaukee and Cincinnati. So Cincinnati is probably is a little bit risky, but they're cheap, and there's some cheap pieces there to throw in. Leverage wise, if you're looking at if everybody's going to be out there on like Cisse, I think Tampa Bay would be a great leverage stack. Cleveland, if against Rondon, Detroit, if people are going to be on Keller, and then if people are on Peralta, then St. Louis would make sense if you're trying to get leverage on highly owned pitchers. And I think those would probably be the four that would be the highest owned. So I'm just going to give you a quick lineup starters here, and then we'll get you off on your Friday holiday weekend to enjoy. So first up, like I said, I'm going to take Rondon as my SP1. Then probably going to have Keller as my SP2. But I might, depending on how much salary I need, Plesac, Wright, and Gore would also be options to throw in there. I'm going to stack the Yankees. So like I said, even though they're Camden Yards and is reconfigured, they're up against Lyles, who is a really bad pitcher, Jordan Lyles. He's actually kind of a reverse splits guy, so the righties will hit him just as well as the lefties. And I don't think that the configuration is really going to stop them from scoring a lot of runs on such a bad pitcher. So the core is obviously going to be Rizzo, Donaldson, Judge, and Stanton if they're all starting. So then I'm thinking about doing like a wraparound here because it's getting quite expensive with those four. And I don't think you can put LeMahieu in. I think he'd fit there at the second base. I don't think I really want to play Torres just with the pricing he's at shortstop. So I'm going to take Higgy, the catcher, who is a righty also, and probably batting ninth, so he could wrap around the stack there, or Hicks, who is probably batting eighth in the outfield. So I'm going to take one of the two of those. And if I don't, I'm going to punt on catcher. I think 2-4 is the lowest. It's usually like Maldonado and some other guys in like the 2-4, 2-6 range. And then you can fill in a second base, shortstop, and outfield. Honestly, I've said it so many times this year, I'm just going to absolutely punt shortstop because unless you're paying up for like one of the studs, there are just absolutely no options. It's almost like picking a catcher. Just whoever fits in your lineup and is starting, just plug them in with whatever money you have left. Honestly, I think they're pretty much all the same. Most of them are hitting lower down in the lineup. A lot of them don't have splits matchups. Nobody's like really sticks out, and maybe they'll change throughout the course of the season. But at this point, like I hate shortstop this year. You either pay up for it or it's the last guy in, pick the rest of your lineup and whatever dollar amount you have left, find a guy that's starting, plug them in, move on. That's just how I've been approaching it. So next, I'm going to take some of these GPP pitchers. I am going to take Marquez and Gore. I think that they can definitely pay off their price tags with their matchups and what they can do. And that gives me a lot of salary left to get some good bats. So I'm going to go with Texas as a core here. I'm going to take Garver, Simeon, Seager, and Garcia. You can, I think Ibanez is the third. You can fill it in with like another guy or wrap around from the back if you want to add it to that. But these positions that I'm leaving open here, you can get a full Dodger stack in there too. And with the Dodgers, they have some nice wraparound pieces too. And even if you're trying to look for some one-offs, like Bellinger's actually been hitting better this year. He's got a couple of home runs at the bottom of the lineup there. Taylor and DK, if he's in the lineup, is pretty overpriced. He's like 4K, where some of these other guys are sub 4K. Lux, I love Lux. He's got some power, and he's a lefty, and he usually has a split advantage, and he's down at the bottom of the lineup and makes a good wraparound. Like if he's batting ninth, going right to Betts there and the top of that order. Houston, you can fit in here. The Angels, you can fit in here with potentially like Walsh and Rendon. And I don't think you can get Trout and Ohtani, so pick one of those and then pick another one-off outfielder. So I really like this kind of GPP, or even like it's a little bit of a riskier cash build with the two pitchers that I took. But I think that I'm going to plug different combinations of different teams in here. Even if you look at Colorado too, you can get probably Cron at first, and Joe, I believe, is outfield eligible. Chris Bryant at third base or outfield. So like there's a lot of things that work with this also, like Vlad and some of the Toronto guys. So love this like skeleton lineup here with these two reasonably priced pitchers that I think will do enough to get you what you need there. And then the Texas stack in there, and then just all these other stacks is fitting it beautifully. I really like it. So appreciate you watching. If you want more information about FSi DFS, you can check out the information from this video in the description section. It gives you the link to our Discord. It gives you information on how to sign up for all of our services. We cover so many things for very reasonable prices, and we're just really here to help you out and make you better DFS players. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below or reach out to me at Twitter at MegaRuler31. And again, thanks for watching. Have a safe holiday weekend, however you're celebrating, or if you're just relaxing with family and friends. Hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the games tonight, and good luck in your contests.